the thing is, I mean, Lukaku winning the 2% there is just taking off the 100% from Immobile. He'll be gutted. But Jordan Lukaku, I think he has had a very good season. I wouldn't call him a signing of the season ahead of Ciro Immobile, but I do think we there's a chance we could be here next year talking about him as a most improved player, because he has shown that he does have. He's a real weapon, actually, on that left wing. He's a real attacking threat, and I think if Inzaghi begins to use this 3-5-2 almost every week, which he seems to like, then Lukaku in that left wing back role can be a real danger going forward, as long as he doesn't completely give up on his defensive responsibilities. I think he could have a really good season next year.
I think he was a little bit unlucky because he started playing and then got injured and missed a couple of months, and then he struggled to regain his places. And then with the Roma derby, he started again and played so well and started playing more and more and more. And unfortunately, he got injured before the finale of Coppa Italia, and maybe the match could be different with the Lukaku there. I think he improved a lot, and I think Simone Inzaghi helping improving even on his defense. As you were saying, he's not very good there, but he's improved a lot, and he has that much power, that much speed that really can put you in difficult situation when he's attacking on the left wing. And that was one of the key of winning the derby. Roma likes to attack on the wings, and with Lukaku there, they struggled, because if you give him 1 meter, then he's gone. And he had a terrific season. I think he's going to improve, and if Lazio is going to play with 3-5-2, then we're going to see him a lot. I think Radu is a good player, but he's not a Champions League level player. Lukaku probably is not there yet, but he has still room to improve. And I think if Lazio want to get the 4th place, then Lukaku is going to be the starter next season. And I'm pretty pleased because he's shown he has talent. He still has to improve, but I think with Simone Inzaghi, he really can improve. The good thing is that if we consider all the players there in our vote of the signing of the season, there's even Bastos and Wallace that were the players that we needed, because the middle defense in Lazio never performed really well in the past. And now with De Vrij, Hurd, Wallace and Bastos, we fill that gap, and finally we don't have any more problems there.
Yeah, and it's not very often you can look back on an entire summer transfer campaign and say that it was overall a success, and I think we can do that this time. I mean, I suppose the exception perhaps is going back to our flop of the season poll, Moritz Leitner was in there, but overall the centre backs you've just mentioned who came in have performed well. Lukaku's shown real promise, and Immobile's been brilliant. So yeah, good signings. The final poll we've got was for the aquilotto of the season, which was another one that was a bit of a landslide win. I actually had a few problems trying to decide on this one, but I did go with Strakosha in the end, who's won it with 85%. Murgia had 13, Lombardi had 2, and Krekel had 0. The reason I had a few doubts, I suppose, is just because I was really impressed by both Lombardi and Murgia this season as well, and they did take their opportunities when they got them in the first team. But Strakosha, just the fact that he was put into the first team, probably wouldn't have expected to be in this position at the start of the season, where he's playing so many games, admittedly thanks to Marchetti's injury, but he can still improve. There's no doubt about that. He's had a few dodgy moments, especially that game against Fiorentina, for example, but he has also pulled off some really good saves, and he does look comfortable in that team, and I think that's credit to him. It's a horrible position in that if you do get something wrong, obviously everybody's going to see it, but I think he's done well for such a young player in his first season, and he probably can only get better, I would have thought.
I agree. I voted Strakosha as well. He had a terrific season for me. Of course, he made a couple of mistakes, even very young and first season in Serie A, so I think that's acceptable. But the good thing for me, very important, is that he played particularly well in important matches like the Roma derby, like the Coppa Italia final against Juventus. He was amazing there. He finished the season very well. That's very important. And I think he's now the starter of Lazio, and he deserves it. He's really young, he still can improve a lot, but he already showed that he's at very high level, and I'm really pleased. Again, Murcia had another really good season. He was another surprise because I think no one could think that he could have that much space. He scored twice. I think next year he's going to play even more, and he showed that he can play at this level. Probably he's not ready for starting, but I'm really pleased that finally all these youngsters coming from Primavera is having some space in the first squad. That is probably what Primavera was done to. And Lazio dominated for 10 years in Primavera and never bring a lot of players in the first squad. And finally this season, I think most of all thanks to Simone Inzaghi, but as well, if the players are not at the level, then the manager can do that much. So I'm happy that all these players have this chance. And I think Murcia next year will play even more. Same thing Lombardi, who started really well and then probably finished not as great, even because Luis Alberto played better and deserved more time. But even Lombardi was a nice surprise for me.
Yeah, good, great season all round. We talked about this last week, but the youth players coming through, it's fantastic. They've been given so many opportunities. Even if they aren't of a level to play in Serie A or to play for Lazio, at least they're getting a chance to show whether they are or not, instead of the coach making a decision about them before they're even on the pitch. So that's good. That does bring me on quite nicely to the first of our readers' questions today. And thanks very much to everyone, again, who's got in touch with us on social media to ask us things this week. And this Primavera question is from Sammy. So, do you see any future at Lazio for the following Primavera stars? Cataldi, Tunkara, Rossi and Oikonomidis. I think we'll leave Cataldi for now because we have another question about him coming up straight after this. So, Vittorio, what do you think about Tunkara, Rossi, Oikonomidis?
Well, Oikonomidis is the one that played a little bit more. 2 years ago, he made his debut even in the Europe League. It didn't convince me that much, but he was playing so well in Primavera. This year, he went to Germany in the second league. He didn't play that much there as well. So, I'm not sure. I think he's coming back to Lazio, and this summer he's going to try to compete to find a spot in the squad. With Simone Inzaghi there, probably that's going to be the best solution for him. I mean, if Simone Inzaghi doesn't make him perform at his maximum, no one will. So I think he will stay there and he can be one of the players to fight for a place if Keita leaves. On Tunkara, I don't know. I saw it in Primavera. He was amazing. He was astonished. I thought he was better than Keita. But he never performed at the level in the professional football. He went to Crotone, scored, but then finished out of the squad. He went to Salerno, but was injured. This year, he had problems outside the pitch. So I don't know if Lazio is going to keep him. I think he's going to go on loan next season. He needs to play. He needs to prove that he has the talent to play for Lazio. But I'm sure about that. Talking about Rossi, I think he's not ready yet to play for Lazio. So I would see him do a little bit what Palombi did this season, go to a team like Ternana and start playing and prove he has the talent. I know Simone Inzaghi likes him a lot, so maybe he can stay in Lazio and fight for a spot there. But I would prefer to have Palombi, Immobile and another striker there and send Rossi to trial. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the question of do we see them having any future at Lazio, I think the one thing they do have in their advantage, those three you've been talking about, is their position, I suppose, because we're going to be back in the Europa League next season and we're going to need a bigger squad, and especially if the likes of Keita and Djordjevic leave the club, you've got to fill those positions. And Rossi particularly, he's scored a lot of goals at Primavera level. He's captained that team, so he's got leadership credentials as well. And Oikonomidis, he's an international player. He's played for Australia as well, so he has played at a good level. And you would hope that they would get opportunities, but it's a hard thing to really make a decision on, because do you want them as part of the squad, maybe playing some Europa League group stage games, some Coppa Italia games, but not really playing a big part in the squad? Or would you prefer them to go out on loan and try and get lots of football? Because with Danilo Cataldi, you've seen the dangers of the wrong loan move, I suppose.
Yeah, the problem is there's no more guarantee that if you send a youngster on loan, he's going to play. And we saw it even with Strakosha. It's impossible to think that Strakosha wasn't good enough to play with Salernitana in Serie B, and now it's good to play for Lazio that arrived fifth in Serie A. So I think the biggest difference is the manager. If the manager trusts you, then you can play and you can perform well. If the manager doesn't trust you, maybe you start playing, but at the first mistake, you don't perform well because you feel that the manager doesn't trust you. And so you are scared, you are not confident. You make a mistake and you're out. So maybe we have to see what Simone Inzaghi think about them. That's going to be the key point.
But they've got a much better chance, I would say, with Simone Inzaghi making these decisions than they would have done 1 or 2 years ago with a different coach. We've actually finally got someone who's capable of looking at these better players and not judging them on their age, actually just judging them on their ability. So if they can't, I would say if Inzaghi's not impressed by them and he does decide to get rid of them, I would be fine with that, because I trusted his judgment entirely when it comes to these young guys.
About Cataldi, I don't know what you think. I think that probably if he comes back to Lazio, he can play, he can find a little bit of space, especially if Biglia leaves. Him and Murcia can be a good midfielder there with Parolo, etc. But I think the biggest mistake with Cataldi is don't think he's the sub of Biglia. They are two different players. Cataldi can play in that position, but I don't think it's his position. He's more like a Parolo player. So I'm not sure that Cataldi can play like Biglia in Lazio. You have to change a couple of things if you want Cataldi to play in that position.
I think Cataldi is a player that Lazio fans just really care about. And, we've had another question from Widia Ari saying what's the best solution for him next season. I think he's had a difficult one, hasn't he? Because there was so much hype around him and hopes of him being a future captain and so on. And then even at Genoa, this loan which hasn't gone well for him, he's ended up falling out with the Lazio fans with this celebration in the Genoa-Lazio game, and the Curva Nord releasing a statement, criticising him for it. And I think when he does return to the club, he's got some work to do to actually repair these relationships, and it's a shame that he has fallen so far within a year from being a guy who's on the cusp of the senior Italy team and becoming a big part of Lazio's future. I think the best solution for him, in terms of addressing that question, I still think the best solution for him is to come back into this Lazio squad and be coached by Inzaghi, because he's done such good work with the young players, and he's got other young midfielders around him to compete with. And I think there will be space for him in either system, 4-3-3 or 3-5-2. I think there can be a role for him. I know what you mean in terms of he's not a direct replacement for Biglia. It's going to be very hard to find anyone who is a direct replacement for Biglia, because he does so much defensively as well as creatively, and not to mention taking set pieces and so on. So Inzaghi's going to have to find a new way of doing it. I think Cataldi, he has to come back very motivated to prove people wrong, because the impression of him as a player and his ability has changed so much within 1 year that he's going to have to really change everyone's opinion all over again.
I think he had a lot of chances to play, especially with the Europe League that Lazio is going to play next year. I think he suffered at the same time a little bit the explosion of Murcia. Before he was the first choice, then at a certain point Murcia was getting in before Cataldi. So I think he suffered that. He has to come back and fight for a place. Without Biglia, he's going to have more space. I still hope Lazio will sign another player if Biglia leaves in midfield. But I think that Cataldi, if he can, as you were saying, with the right mindset to play and prove that he's a good player, he would have enough space especially because Parolo is not getting any younger. So I don't think Parolo would play all the season.